Okay, so the last two times I was up here, I talked about emotional and soppy stuff, and that's about it. I know! I'm so... such a teenage girl. This time, I'm going to tell a funny and mildly terrifying, at least for me, story. So yeah, I know a lot of people have said this, that they don't like the great outdoors, or the stories that they've told have been, you know, something that happened outdoors that changed their opinion, or something about connecting to nature. I think there have only been a couple stories that I've seen tonight that have been like, hey, this funny thing happened in the woods. or like Ty's story was really emotional. Great story, Ty. So my story is, hey, this funny thing happened in the woods. I almost died.
Yeah! Almost died.
Thanks, Mom. As previously mentioned, my original story was my mom's story, but she called dibs, so I have a different story. She probably tells it better anyway. Like she said, I was 4. Although I do very, very vividly remember picking up every rock I saw along the road. I very clearly remember, oh, look at this rock. Oh, this is a pretty leaf. The whole time. But no, so my story has to do with something fairly more recent, within the past, I think, 3 years. Yeah, it must have been 13. I was 13. So it was 3 years ago. So I've been whitewater rafting since I was like 9. We go every year. Actually, we haven't gone in the past 2 years, but that's okay. We'll go back one of these days, right, Mom? Yes? Okay.
We didn't go last summer, that's it.
Okay. Anyway. It feels longer for me. Okay, so 3 years ago, we were whitewater rafting. We go to Ace Adventure Resort in West Virginia. And they do river trips on the New River Gorge and also on the Gauley River. We'd always done the Upper New trip, which when I was 9, I got an age waiver for. The minimum age, I think, was 11 or 12 to go on the trip. And they took my measurements, and they asked if I was a strong swimmer, and I was. And they were like, you're fine, you can go on the trip. So we'd been going on that for a while. And finally, and then I think the year before I had gotten an age waiver to go on the Upper Gauley, which is like the little bit higher up, but like still pretty okay. No. I had it. That was the first year. It was a step up. It was a mildly terrifying step to take, but I was ready. So we got on the raft that day. We were camping there, and the thing about the New River is, the rapids get up to, I think, a class 5, which is the highest level rapid. There's like one of those on the New River that they take you on. They're like, everything else is like a class 3, class 4. But like it's pretty mild, and there's a lot of space in between rapids. So like there's a lot of chilling out. Like there's parts where you can take off your helmet and just jump in the river and swim next to the raft because the water's warm. Why not? Other than the fact that you're swimming in riverfish poop. But these are things you don't think about or try not to. So we're on this new big New River, and not the New River though, the Gully. So we're in there, and it's being explained to us that the rapids are a lot less far between. They're more the rapids are more rapid. There's a lot less space in between them. There's a lot less time to relax, and most of the rapids on this river are class 4 and 5, which 5 is the highest class that they can legally take you on. Class 6 is classified as anything like not navigable. For example, Niagara Falls is considered a class 6. Don't raft over Niagara Falls. So if that gives you an idea of what a class 5 is like, no, it's really not like a water. Well, there's a couple that are waterfall-ish. So I'm ready. I'm ready for this though. I'm 13 and ready to dominate this trip. I was like, yes. So we're there. Mind you, I had never fallen out of a raft before because I'm pretty good at this whole rafting thing. And I've been rafting that was my 5th time rafting. I was like, I got this. So on the first rapid, I fell out of the raft. The first rapid was called Fuzzy Basket of Kittens. No joke. They call it that because it's not a fuzzy basket of kittens, though. So I fell out during Fuzzy Basket of Kittens. I should probably mention that my mom also fell out. The other people in the raft were inexperienced at rafting, and that was their first trip rafting. Did they fall out? No, they didn't. It was just the experienced ones. You're the only ones who fell out. That was fun. So that was a little bit humiliating, but we got back in the raft and everything was fine. We were like, okay, wow.
I fall out of the raft all the time.
Yeah, that was not her first time falling out of a raft. That was her 3rd time falling out of a raft. One time she fell out during still water. We were on flat water. We hit this little bump and she just tumbled out of the raft. And we all just looked at her what happened just now? So that's a fun story too. Then we're rafting and everything's fine and everything's pretty badass and it's great and it's all awesome. And before every rapid, the rafting guide will always tell you, okay, so if you fall out during this rapid, so there are undercut rocks on the right side. So obviously, first choice, get back to the raft. If you can't immediately get back to the raft, swim a hard left. Avoid the undercut rocks. Or vice versa, or, whatever the case may be, or swim a gradual right or a gradual left. It's pretty simple as long as you remember what way to swim. So we got to one rapid, a rapid called, and a specific rock called the meat grinder. Our rafting guide explained that this was a very large undercut rock not to be messed with, and that if encountered, it would probably not be a very good thing at all for anybody. So we were like, okay, that's cool, whatever. Lots of undercut rocks on the river. An undercut rock, by the way, in case nobody knows, is where the river is flowing, and over time it cuts out this groove underneath, and it's like a cavern underneath, basically, which could be ranged from anything very small to anything the full size of my body, or larger. There can be full caves under there. It's terrifying. You wouldn't see it unless you encountered it. If you encounter it, you will, depending on how big it is, you could break something, you could die. It's not fun. They make you sign a waiver for these things. So we can do this rapid with the meat grinder. And a rafting guide's like, okay, hey guys, so if you fall out here, just don't fall out here. Straight up, he told us that. He actually did not give further instructions like we asked him. We were like, okay, yeah, but seriously, if we fall out here, what do we do? He was like, get back to the raft immediately, do not fall out here. We were like, okay. And he was like, there are undercut rocks everywhere in this rapid. Just don't. Avoid falling out. Don't fall out. We were like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, no big. So we're rafting. It's all good. I fell out. 13-year-old me says, oh, shit. I'm in the water now. That wasn't supposed to happen. So, I'm pretty calm in those situations. I have, this really intense parasympathetic nervous system where the whole rest of my brain was freaking out because that's a rapid I was not supposed to fall out in, and there I am in the water. So my brain was just like, no, we're going to flood you with a bunch of calm chemicals. It's cool. And I was just like, so I'm there, and I'm right next to the raft still, and I was like, this isn't good. Okay, so I'm just kind of in the water, keeping my head above water, and you have to remember that there are a bunch of rocks underneath the water that your feet could snag on at any moment. Who knows if they're undercut? You can't see them. So protocol is to keep your feet up. So I'm floating on my back next to the raft, and I'm just like, all right, this is fine. I fell out. I was sitting on the right side of the raft. I fell out on the right side of the raft. The meat grinder rock is on the right side of the raft. We were toward the shoreline. We weren't far from it. I was like, all right, so this is not a good situation. The next thing I know, I didn't get to say anything, like I didn't scream help or anything. I figured they knew I was gone. I mean, it's not something you don't notice. Lo and behold, nobody but the rafting guide seemed to notice. So I was in the water for probably a whole 10 seconds before, no, nobody, I was toward the back of the raft, it's okay. The only person behind me was the rafting guide. I'll give you guys that. So the next thing I know, I was probably in the water for a good 10 seconds, like between the time I tumbled out, between the time I was like, all right, I know what's going on here. The next thing I know, though, the rafting guide is screaming, and I'm gonna put my microphone down here so I don't deafen you guys. Next thing I hear above the roar of the water around me is, get her in! Get her in! Literally that loud. It was a panicked scream from a rafting guide. You don't hear that very often, and if you do, it's probably a pretty bad situation. Lo and behold, so all these inexperienced rafters are on the left side of the raft. It had been covered at the beginning of the rafting trip that you don't, like a whole one side of the raft shouldn't move to the other side of the raft because that causes a weight imbalance and the raft could flip. So the rafting guide screams at everybody, get her in, get her in. The whole left side of the raft decides to try to help me get in. And the rafting guide just yells at them and says, not everybody! And meanwhile, I'm in the water like, this is fine. I can't get in the raft on my own. I don't know where this undercut rock is. I'm just gonna chill out here. It's all good. I'm not gonna get trapped under the raft or anything. I'm not gonna get caught under an undercut rock. I'm totally not gonna die right now. So, in this big jumble moment, the two people that ended up getting me in the raft were my stepdad and the rafting guide, and they pulled me in. You don't ever, when rafting, grab somebody by the arms because it only takes 25 pounds of pressure to dislocate a shoulder. So you don't pull them in by the arm. So they grabbed the straps of my, what most people call life vests. They don't call them that there. They call them PFDs, personal flotation devices, because they don't save your life. You save your life. That's what they always tell you. It's cheesy, but true. Yeah. So they grab the straps of my PFD, and they start hauling me in, and meanwhile I'm doing the typical protocol dolphin kick to get myself back into the raft. And, it's a piece of work hauling me back into a raft. I don't have that much upper body strength. Also, the water is pulling at me to trying to pull me back into the river. It's just this fight to get me back in the raft. Finally, I tumble back into the raft. I'm pulling my leg in. And I sit back in my spot. And as I'm pulling my leg in, I turn and look. And I see us pass the meat grinder. It's a slow motion moment for me. Had they pulled me in 2 seconds later, I would have encountered that undercut rock I was not supposed to encounter. And that's the story of how I learned that when a rafting guide tells you not to fall out during a rapid, you probably shouldn't fall out during that rapid.